Today I am joined by a singer-songwriter for Sydney band North Arm. Welcome to Pario Magazine, Roderick Smith.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having me. It's great to join you.
Not a problem. So before we dive into the main topic, we're here to chat about the newest album, Bring the Sunlight. Before we do that though, are you able to give us a little bit of info about yourself and your creative journey so far?
Sure. Yeah, so Bring the Daylight is the latest album from North Arm. North Arm is predominantly me working, in my own home studio, which is where I am at the moment, writing songs and collaborating with friends, an ensemble cast, effectively of musicians that I've formed relationships with over the years. I started North Arm in about 2013, 14. I was previously in a band called Fire Kites. We put a few records out, and I was life was kind of moving on for me and others. So we, chose to part ways, and I started up North Arm and released a couple of albums. So this is the latest, third. So the musical journey's been amazing. It's been a fun sort of experience of many collaborations, and I think that's why I enjoy it so much.
So is North Arm more of a solo project where you bring in different people each time, or?
Yeah, basically. So I work predominantly with a producer named Robin Waters, who's based in Melbourne. And I have a couple of other friends who have joined me with this record. Jay Walker from Machine Translations, he did a lot of overdubs and strings for this album. And Grace Turner, who is an artist in her own right. She's from the same hometown as me, Newcastle in New South Wales. So I tend to reach out to Robin, and we discuss what might be good, to include in terms of sounds for the songs that I've sketched out in my own home studio. So yeah, long story short, that cast of musicians has been, different drummers. So we had Dan Parsons do some drumming for us at one point. Alistair Barden was the drummer for this album, and yeah, we've had saxophonists and others who have come in to do overdubs as well. So it's one of those projects that sort of starts with me, and I sketch out a little bit of a map, and then we see how far we can take it. And in this case, we happen to take it to a place that I'm really proud of.
I imagine that gives you a lot of flexibility with the creative process and exploring different sounds and genres with the music.
Yeah, so the last record was very much about that. There was just a lot of production that was applied. I myself was really enjoying kind of exploring a number of different sounds, synthesizers, and kind of running things, through other things to make sounds that are sort of not typical. In the case of this album, this one is a bit of an album of limitations. My traditional software and hardware was sort of breaking down, and I'd lost a lot of the studio gadgets that I like, in terms of the software studio gadgets that I had. And some of my hardware as well, like microphones and stuff, weren't quite up to scratch. So I kind of pared it back to the very basics, and it was just an exercise in making sure that I could get really true sounds into my computer, and then we could kind of determine what we were going to do with them from there, which is what we did. And as it turns out, we didn't do much. We didn't do much with the guitars, and we did very little with the vocals. And a lot of the vocals on the record are all first takes because I had intended to be re-singing them down in the studio, but of course the pandemic intervened and I never got down there.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did the pandemic sort of influence that aspect of it as well?
Absolutely, and there's programs that you can use, which we did employ towards the end when we were going through the final mixing stage, where it's called audio movers, and two people can effectively sit on a an audio channel and listen in real time and effectively talk through notes and so on. So it was amazing how I think this is true of everything throughout the pandemic. It's just amazing how the technology in many respects was sort of already there, and it was a matter of circumstances demanding its use.
Yep. Who would you say were the biggest influences on the sound of North Arm for this record?
Look, I think when I was starting to kind of conceive, like I've been out of the game for probably about 5 years. I hadn't really written any music for like a 3-year period. And then I sort of started in 2019 to kind of get the feeling like I wanted to do it again. Like I was just getting that kind of flabby feeling about, not having a soundtrack in my head, not feeling like I was kind of creating new things, which just gives me a kind of a sense of kind of all things being right in the world. I don't know how to explain it any other way. So I started to I was at that time really getting into back into some sounds that my old band were really kind of was formed the basis of our original sound, and that was just listening to Aldous Huxley. Aldous Harding, and other artists in that genre of just really true acoustic singer songwriting. And during the record, I was listening to a lot of artists like Skull Crusher, and other predominantly female artists. In fact, like I was just really enjoying some of the production and kind of sensibilities of female artists in that genre, and it was really what was inspiring me essentially. I mean, that's how I came to kind of reach out to Grace and kind of ask if she wanted to maybe lend a bit of a vocal hand, because at that time, around the time that I was producing the record, she brought out an amazing EP, and I was just really inspired by the sound of it and where she was taking it. So yeah, I was really, really grateful that she was keen to be involved. And yeah, so long story short, again, mainly folk sounds. There were some coming out of America, but some, also local in New Zealand. And yeah, I mean, I wish I could rattle them off the top of my head, but as usual, when anyone asks me what influences me, my mind goes blank.
Yep, just so many influences, so it's hard to pinpoint just one or two.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of music, and always have. I'm just a big music fan, basically. I've never really considered myself much of an artist, like as in, I always, look upon those artists that I admire, and just see them as being the real deal. And I'm sort of somebody who just kind of, loves to have my go at it. But here we are, 3 albums in, and I'm talking to you, so it's really nice to have that opportunity.
Yep. And as you mentioned, this is sort of a return after a bit of a break. Why did you take sort of 4 years between releases?
It wasn't super intentional. I felt like the Let Love Through, which is the last record, I was so proud of it, and I poured so much into it. Time, energy, money, and like went there. And I was also working a day job, and that was not getting any less busy. And I was just really exhausted after that process. Like I kind of needed a bit of a break, although it wasn't intentional. I think that's just what happened. My mind and my kind of I don't know, my expectations and my motivations and kind of, you know, libido for music was sort of had waned, because I just kind of over the, you know, period between 2013 and 2017 just written a bunch of music, and produced a bunch of music with others. So yeah, but I really felt like the break was good for me, because it kind of, you know, I stood back, and went, you know what, I just, having had the break in the space, I just wanted to write music that was just really kind of real and really of the moment for me, but also kind of focus intently on how to breathe kind of words and melodies into just the bliss of just everyday life, right? Like the pandemic, if anything, and everybody's talking about it, you know, ad nauseum, and I hate to add to that, but the pandemic in many ways just kind of it shifted the gears, and things slowed down. And when they did, I just felt this enormous sense of peace and tranquility, which I didn't expect, and it no longer troubled me that I wasn't kind of out in the world. If in a way, it was just exactly what I needed at that time. So the music sort of started to come back.
Yeah, like if you've poured everything into a previous record, there's not a lot of energy left to come back right away. It's sort of impressive when
Totally.
artists do that.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of artists and a lot of writers and stuff, you know, that I listen to, you know, they'll be writing the next thing, you know, as the you know the previous thing is sort of starting to find its place in the kind of in the in the kind of musical biosphere of and you know, and being released. So in the case of this record, that's what I'm doing. What I've found is that I still have a lot of energy, and I'm still really keen to be continuing writing music. And since I've done that, it's taken the thirst away from this record. Like the you know the one of the things that I try not to do is just be too thirsty for people to kind of discover my music, because I don't want to be seen as or perceived as being somebody who's promoting or kind of relentlessly pursuing kind of a vanity project. You know what I mean? Like I want to get to that point where I'm just releasing music and letting it stand on its own 2 feet, and kind of getting on with the next thing. So yeah, again, I had been through many years of that same process, writing music as I'm releasing it. This break that I had between this record and the last one was the longest that I'd had in almost since 2005. And yeah, now I'm kind of back on the horse, and it's a great place to be.
Okay, that sort of I feel that shows like a confidence in the music as well, in a way that you are happy to just put it out there, and good music will find an audience no matter what. You don't have to be there constantly pushing it in front of people.
Yeah, and I don't know, like at some point I kind of got to that place where I was like, oh, I just want to trust the material. And look, if it doesn't find those people, that's okay. Like, it was such a great process and a great collaboration. I had such a great feeling around the record, and such a good kind of feeling about the material. I was like, oh, I just really trust this material, and I'm hoping that it will find its audience. And as it turned out, I mean, you know, my last record I didn't have any label support, but this one I do have some support from a label and a distributor, and that's you know, and a publicist, and that is just incredible. And you know, I've also been able to get a bit of press and a couple of rotations on you know, community radio and you know, with Double J. And like, to be honest, it's like that's so good. Like that's playing with house money, right? Like I've already achieved having got to the place of releasing the music and being happy with the results. Like I've already like achieved my objectives. So everything else is a bonus. And whatever I really intentionally try and focus on that, and not like feel a sense of entitlement about having an audience or having a platform, you know.
Yep. And this record touches on a range of topics, from sort of misinformation, making amends, and sort of celebrating the people that are no longer with us. Is it quite a personal album for you?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, I don't think I've ever written music that's not personal, but at the same time, I think this music is sort of more, it's less shrouded in artifice, you know. uh, you can write records and kind of produce them to the extent that they just become like expressionist paintings of feelings and thoughts, and are really kind of something that's soft focused. You need to stand all the way back in the museum to kind of get a sense of what that picture is, and not everyone takes that time. And in a lot of ways, I think, you know, as an artist, I've done that in the past, like to kind of, I don't know, hide some of those personal things away, or at least obscure them a bit, so that it doesn't feel so kind of, I don't know, raw, you know, when you sort of sing it out. But in this instance, it was like, no, like there's some really, really touching subjects and sentimental places, and some difficult kind of home truths that I really wanted kind of like to showcase. And it wasn't intentional. Songs get written and they're just written as they're written, but yeah, in this instance, it just turned out that way, and I was just so happy because I felt like it was time.
Have the last couple of years sort of played into that and wanting to get those thoughts and emotions out?
Yeah. Look, I mean, everybody. What I try as well to reflect on is that everybody is coming to every moment with their own thoughts and internal monologue and their own issues and things that happened that day, and you know, all of those sorts of that kind of personal white noise, right? Um, and and therefore, it's like what I wanted to, what I sort of set out to do was kind of give a bit of voice to my own personal kind of white noise and my own experiences over the last few years, and kind of put that in a kind of a, I don't know, an art piece, right? Because I felt like, you know, some of the white noise that was going on in my life over the last couple of years is just so common to other people. And I guess in so many ways, like I write music to connect to people. And I write music because I love to have a bit of a soundtrack to what's going on. So yeah, it has those personal aspects to it. I mean, I've lost some beautiful family members, my grandparents, who were just such a huge involvement in my life, and you know, I've you know, struggled with, you know, mental health issues and like so many others, and yeah, you know, like I'm trying to maintain a loving and fulfilling partnership in, you know, with my wife, and you know, and try and be a better person every day for her. So yeah, so you know, all of that sort of plays into it, and you know, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a very human record, and that's what I love about it.
And now that the album is out in the wild, how has the response been so far?
Oh, beyond my expectations. I mean, I had such a great feeling about the material, but you know, I wasn't sure whether or not, you know, I'd just been away for too long for anyone to really take notice of what I was doing anymore. But as it turned out, you know, everybody that I showed the material to was kind of like somehow kind of drawn to it and touched by it. So consequently, you know, being able to collaborate with people like Grace and Jay Walker and Robin and Alistair and others that came in, you know, sending messages out to some of the artists that I really love, you know, and have grown up admiring, you know, like, you know, I've had some really great feedback from you know, from Alex Gow from Perfect Moment. I reached out to Jack Latta, who's an old friend of mine, and I reached out to you know, to Gabriella Cohen and so on. And, you know, just some of these artists sort of, you know, the fact that they're even answering my messages was just so nice. So, you know, it's always the people that you admire and respect. And, you know, when they give you some positive feedback, it just gives you that much more energy to keep going. And then, yeah, was able to, you know, got a few slots on radio and, you know, included in a playlist for The Guardian Australia and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just way beyond my expectations. So I'm just really pleased, and we'll see how it goes from here.
Okay, brilliant. And your producer Robin has worked with some artists like Kate Miller-Heidke, Ella Hooper, and Dan Parsons. Are they people that you would like to collaborate with in the future?
Oh, I wouldn't presume. I mean, Dan's worked on some stuff on the last record, but I wouldn't presume to. I mean, I'd love to work with both of Ella and Kate, but geez, I mean, they've got their own thing going on. But you know, certainly at the time that I write new music, I do have a mind for who might be a great person to collaborate with. And you know, sometimes that kind of person doesn't sort of come to light until later on in the piece. And you know, so I keep an open mind, and I also keep you know, keep a kind of an open heart when it comes to collaborations. And look, you never know in the future. I wouldn't rule it out, but I certainly wouldn't presume to you know, to think that they would be interested. But I'm a big admirer of both of those artists.
Brilliant. And with the country sort of now opening back up, are you hoping to get out and tour this record in the coming months?
Yeah, good question. I've sort of been grappling with that. I think that, you know, the pandemic has had such a heavy effect on the music industry, and it's been so tough for so many artists and you know, service providers to the music industry, that I'm just so grateful that now you know, we're so vaccinated, and people are able to get out there and play shows again. From my perspective, I think I'm just still coming to terms with what that looks like for me. You know, and in a lot of ways, it's like how to, you know, the COVID situation at the moment, when you've collaborated with artists who are variously located around Australia, getting them all into the one place is a bit of a challenge as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a bummer that you know, no touring or live shows could happen in conjunction with this record. But at the other end of the spectrum, it's like, well, I mean, touring and playing live is great, but it's not something that I'm a supernatural at. So, you know, in a lot of ways, I just tend to kind of get back into the studio, and, you know, the home studio, as it turns out, and just keep turning out riffs, you know. But you never know. I'll keep you guys posted and let you know. Yeah, if we were to pull a live band together for this record, I think yeah, it would be some experience. It would be something that I'd love to do.
Brilliant. And then finally, where's the best place for our audience to stay up to date with potential future dates, the next record, and your creative journey moving forward?
Yeah, well, I'm on Instagram at North Arm Music, but it's not a double M between Arm and Music. So I'm also on Facebook with the band North Arm, and so it's a band page. But I love to get spins on Spotify if I can, and Bandcamp, of course. You can jump in there, and if you're liking what you're hearing and you want to, you know, buy a CD, I press CDs this time around, so you can listen to it in your car, which I think they still have CD players last time I checked. So,
yep.
So yeah, hit me up. I'll post it across to you with a lovely little note and of thanks. And yeah, Jamie, just so grateful for you reaching out for an interview, and it's great to speak with you guys.
Our pleasure, and good luck with everything, and hopefully we'll be out there and get plenty of support for the music for you.
No, very grateful, very grateful. Thanks for the time.